Most of you are already familiar with the ACTi Project Planner. You have been using Product Selector and some other tools here. Today we will introduce a new tool, which is PoE Switch Selector. Why do we have this tool here? That's because when people buy ACTi cameras and choose the VMS, then they eventually have the question is that what kind of switch should I put in between the cameras and the VMS? And because most of our cameras are based on the PoE power, so the PoE switch has to be compatible. The power consumption should be sufficient to feed all the cameras. So there is a risk that user might choose the wrong switch and that then the installation might not be successful. To help with that, we have created this nice tool, and I'm going to introduce how to work with this tool. Basically, there are two ways to work with this tool. One is that you already have a PoE switch. You maybe use this type of switch in most of your projects, so you would like to continue using this switch. So all you want to do is to validate whether the chosen ACTi cameras are compatible with your PoE switch. So let's give it a try. At this moment, because today is the release of the PoE Switch Selector tool, so at this moment we only have 4 brands listed here. In coming days we will keep adding more and more manufacturers, and the list of PoE switches will be richer, and it's very likely that you will find your favorite switch from this list. Let's start with some tests here. Let's say I pick D-Link here and I choose the model here. We will be able to see the specifications at the step 3 here. So it is a 16-port device. Half of them are PoE ports, and this is a power consumption per port, and the total consumption is 130 watts. And the layout of the PoE switch would look like this below. So we start validating our PoE switch. I can choose a model for my first PoE port. You can see that there are lots of models here that I can choose. I can choose either a PoE powered camera or the non-PoE camera. For example, I can choose even the video encoder here, like that. And in this case, it has only the DC 12-volt power supply, and because it uses its own power adapter, so it won't consume the power of the PoE switch itself. If I'm choosing the camera that, like B41, that uses PoE power, then you can see that in this case the power consumption will be based on the camera specifications, and it is 12.9 here. Okay, and on the PoE switch side, the power requirement will be 15.4. There is the gap between this value and this value. That is the PoE standard that requires that the PoE switch should be able to provide more power than actually required, because depending on the length or the quality of the cable or the environment, some power may be lost while being transmitted over the PoE cable. That's why this PoE wattage is higher than the camera side wattage. I keep choosing some more models, and you see that the values are being accumulated here. And there was a total power throughput 130 watts here. So as long as we are within this total, then this PoE switch is considered as pass. You can keep adding the models here one after another, and like this. And when you choose a model for the non-PoE port, you may notice one thing, that here we will not see the list of the non-PoE cameras. So, sorry, we will not see the list of the PoE only cameras, such as platform D or E models, so that we will not accidentally choose the wrong product. So I can choose P54 here. So it works with a DC 12 volt here. And in this case, it is suitable for this port. However, this camera supports PoE. If I try to force the PoE class here to this port, then it will tell me that this port is not supported. So I can't make the mistake here actually. So that this report down here saying that the validation was successful no longer is successful. If I change it back to the TC 12 volt, this switch is good again. I can just keep adding all the ports like this, fill up everything. If I have a port reserved for other purposes, such as, and will be connecting, this port will be used to connect to a PC, such as NVR PC or another switch. Let's say this one will also be connecting to another switch, because my site may consist of several camera groups and several switches that are connected all together. And some of them I will reserve for future use, maybe like this one. And in this case, I already have them like this. Okay, this is done now. What you may notice is that not only this favorite PoE switch of mine has passed this validation, but the system is also able to provide more options that you can choose from, so that you can consider whether you want to pick any of the other switches. So what you do now is you can check, for example, you may have interest in this switch here. How about this, and maybe this? Anyway, these 4, in addition to the one that you picked earlier, and then you can add them all to your report. And the report would look like this. So here are the 5 switches with a model name, and this is your scenario. These are the 16 ports that you define that are needed for you, for your case. Okay, and all these listed switches above fulfill your requirements. So it's part of your report now. You can now go back to the and start over basically. You can maybe try some other brands and some other, for example, that I already finished the switch 1, which is maybe the first floor solution, and now I go to the second floor and I will have another set of cameras there, and maybe in that case I will try to try another favorite switch. Okay, so what we will have here is we have 12 ports here, and you may notice that the total power throughput is only 124 watts, which is less than the number of ports multiplied by the power per port. So some switches which are designed to optimize the cost do not have the sufficient total power. So let's try an example. Let's say that I pick the models like KCM maybe 3311. KCM 3311 is a model from the PoE class 3, and you can see that from the switch side we require at least 14 watts. If I keep adding those models, several of them, you can see how the total number here increases, and the remaining power is now only 12 watts. So after adding one more KCM 3311 here, we will get the warning message that the power is not enough. In this case, it looks like if these cameras are must for my solution, and I have to have at least 9 of them, then my chosen switch appears to be not good for this installation. However, you don't have to worry, because I am still seeing some other options here that are suitable. So I can still pick the ones that are good for me here. Maybe I'm interested in these three options, and then I'll add this to the report as well. So if I scroll down here to the switch number 2, then these three switches are good for my requirements of these 9 cameras of KCM3311. There are some other things that I would like to highlight. For example, if I want to do the installation with older models that are no longer sold by ACTi, but I still have them in my stock, or I have them available for install project, then I can check this box here, and then you will be able to choose some older models that are no longer available. So you will see the list of all the cameras, like KCM3211 normally not show up, but if you have checked the discontinued camera models, then you'll be able to choose the KCM3211 here. So the list will be longer a little bit here. If we will now move on to the another option. Like we were on this page earlier, then with selecting the first scenario with my favorite switch. However, if I don't know anything about switches, or I don't have any specific brand to carry, I just know the project requirements, then I choose the second option here, choose a new PoE switch. Choose a new PoE switch works in a way that I will define how many cameras I have here for the class 1, 2, or 3. Let's say I have 6 cameras, and then how many non-PoE cameras or high PoE cameras I have. Please note that both non-PoE and high PoE cameras will not be drawing the power from the PoE switch. The non-PoE cameras have their own power adapter, like DC 12 volt power adapter, and the high PoE cameras will be using their own high PoE injector, which is also available in accessory section of ACTi products. Let's say that I have 4 of them here, and I can reserve some ports for future PoE cameras, maybe one port here, and I will not going to have any future non-PoE cameras here. And I plan to have one NVR, one maybe client PC connecting to this system, and I will need to reserve one more port for connecting to another switch on the upper floor. So I will have 3 ports reserved. So after submitting this form, it gives me the matrix of 14 ports. 7 of them are PoE ports, because here I defined as 6 PoE cameras now and 1 in the future. So that's why it's 7 here. And I can start filling up everything. I can include the discontinued models here if I like. And as I start doing it, I will dynamically get the results down here. So it will be quite simple. Just note that if you are choosing the model such as the high PoE model such as KCM8211, then it says that this is your power supply here, DC 12 volts. And if you use high PoE, it reminds you that you have to use the high PoE injector that is available in ACTi accessory page. So it will not be drawing any power from this PoE switch. So you might notice that the total power did not change with this selection here. So after choosing all these models here, the total power keeps growing here, and the results will be dynamically changing below here. So here now already I have 73.7 watts in total, and I might need these 3 ports like that, and these are, I'm reserving them for future use. Even if you skip the ones you don't feel the select ones, then they will be considered as reserved ports. So for your convenience, if you know that you're not going to use them right now, you can just skip defining what's going to be here for this port. Just for example, 13 and 14, I just leave them as select. All right, and then I pick some of the models here that I like. Let's say these six models here. You may notice that this list is sorted by the least number of PoE ports, so that you can optimize your project cost by choosing the model that has the least number of ports that can still fulfill your current choices. Okay, so because like currently I have not chosen more cameras than 7, so right now I'm having this list here, so I add them to a report. So here, okay, here are my models here. So this is the power consumption, and these are the devices here. So, and after adding these things to the report, I already have three switches in the report. I can export this to Excel. So you will be able to see the Excel file with switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. So if you take this list and you go shopping, then you can have these 3 options. You can make the price comparison and choose which one is most suitable for you and for your project. In the coming few days, we will be adding more and more new models. As to the list of the cameras that you choose, the list of cameras that appears here, it will be appearing here at the same time as for our product selector. So when the product selector contains a new model, then you will be able to see it here as well. That's our plan to maintain this list here. If you have any feedback on like how you would like this tool to be further developed, you can always let us know. Thank you very much.